Welcome to the Made to Parade podcast, sponsored by the British Drum Company, manufacturers of the Phantom, Regimental Series and Axial Parade drums that look amazing, sound amazing and feel amazing.
Alright folks, welcome along to another episode of the Made to Parade podcast. You're joining us on episode number 9, season number 5. Delighted to be joined by Thomas McAllister from the Whiterock Flute Band. Great to have you with us.
Thanks very much, Glenn. It's great to be here.
Yeah, good to have you on. As I was saying, it's one of the bands that I've been looking forward to getting on. Long history, and I'm sure we'll get into a wee bit of that as we'll go through this. But maybe what we'll do is we'll just start off like we always do. Tell us how you got involved in the band. What kind of sparked your interest?
Yeah, so I was saying to you earlier there that my spark wasn't a family connection, which many people is. I had no immediate family that were involved in bands. My path into bands would have been, well, certainly the interest in bands was growing up in an area, Denmark Street, which leads you on to Clifton Street, and the Clifton Street Orange Hall was right there. So you had a lot of parades leaving the sort of street we lived on. So you were always in that environment where bands were about,
sure.
And that sort of had your interest to listening and watching the bands. My path into bands was, my first sort of parading environment was with the Junior Orange, actually.
Right, okay.
So I had friends that I run about with that were in Junior LOL 32, the Britannia, from Sandy Row District. Whilst they were Brown Square friends, we went to Sandy Row District to join the lodge. And in the actual fact, the lodge, Junior 32, were always accompanying the Whiterock Flute Band.
Oh, right, okay.
So if any time I was on parade with Junior 32, we would have been, walking with the Whiterock Flute Band. So I suppose that kind of had me interest in the Whiterock, sure, over other bands at that time, and that's kind of how my interest was sparked in the bands. At that time in Junior 32, there was a guy, Raymond Buchanan, who was a senior member of the Orange, but also a member of the Whiterock Flute Band.
Sure.
So during my time in Junior 32, he had asked me to come up and join the Whiterock Flute Band.
Okay.
And having no musical experience to that point, it was a nerve-wracking one, sort of going to the bands as a youngster. But, I went along and enjoyed that environment and got going with the Whiterock.
Dead on. And what was it like whenever you started to learn to play in this? I know you said it was a wee bit daunting and all that kind of. Well, what was it like walking into the hall for the first time and meeting everybody and kind of finding your way? What was that all like for you?
Yeah, I mean, it was daunting, no doubt, obviously getting into a new environment that I'd never been in before. The good thing was that with the junior lodge, actually, there was a number of us that had taken the same path. So I think there was about 11 in total. The Junior Orange that had moved from the lodge into the band. So when I got up there was some people that I knew and recognised straight away, so that eased me a bit. But definitely, a bit daunting getting into that new experience. And the first instrument that I kind of went on was the cymbals.
Right, okay.
I suppose it was helped by the fact that I've been following the bands for a couple of years with the lodge, so
sure,
they always are with the Whiterock Easter Tuesday, August the 12th. So I'd got in my head the style, the sort of the way that they played, so that helped when you were going on to play the cymbals, for example.
Brilliant. And did you do what a lot of kids do? Were you part of an fate band walking about the street now, were you?
It's funny you say that, yeah. I mean, that's something that you definitely done. Very rarely you have been without a pair of drumsticks in your hand or around half a container about the street. And I say it's funny because still to this day you'll see kids, walking up and down the street coming around to July and so on, and you'll see them doing the same thing. But yes, absolutely. Yeah. You always had a bit of wood or a set of drumsticks and away you went.
Or something, I know. Although I have to say, some of the wee fate bands that you see knocking about in the street now are better kitted out than some bands that are walking on the road, aren't they?
Absolutely, and we've got the tension drums in there, and they're walking about, and someone can play the flute now. Yeah. That was something that we always struggled with a wee band. You wouldn't have had the fluters.
Aye, everybody's whistling. Exactly. Just holding the pretend flute and whistling. I remember that really. We had the cardboard box drums and stuff where we had, I'm trying to make them, putting tape on them and stuff to try and get them a bit firmer so you could roll and all on them and stuff, but great crack.
No, absolutely, and that's, you used to do that. And another thing that we living in Denmark Street, we had the Prince William, actually, the accordion band. They practiced at the Denmark Street Community Centre, so you'd always have heard them, playing inside, and you'd maybe sat outside and playing along.
Yeah, exactly. Brilliant, good stuff. So you're picking the cymbals up for the first time, easy enough?
Well, from what I can remember, it's again a bit of a scary experience because you don't know about timing. You're hoping that you're going to get the right timing. But yeah, I mean, quite quickly, the Whiterock style, very straightforward. Nice single beat, so it wasn't too hard to sort of pick up. And quite quickly, I was on parade with the band because, as I said, I think the fact that I walked behind the band for so many years, it was probably 3 years before I actually joined the band, walking behind them. I certainly had the style in my head and the music in my head.
Brilliant. So how long was it from joining to you doing your first period?
I don't think it was very long. My memory's a bit sketchy around that time.
Okay.
I'm in the band this year actually 21 years.
Wow,
so
okay.
my memory's a bit sketchy going back then, but yeah, I mean, I don't think it was very long. I think it was more getting the uniform kitted out and getting yourself ready and then getting out on parade. And as I said, I picked the cymbals up pretty quickly. So
what was the first parade, if you can remember?
I think for me it was probably one of the Derry days. I can't remember if it was August or December, but it was certainly after summer. So those were the one of the first parades for me.
Okay. And was there any particular reason for that in terms of that being your first one? Were you like on holiday for the 12th or something, or what was it?
No, it was probably just down to timing. I think obviously in bands, I think there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes to get you ready to get out on the parade. It's not just a matter of turning up and away you go. So it was getting the uniform, getting yourself ready for the parade, and I think it was just a matter of the timing. Getting everything organised to go out and walk with the band.
Yeah. So you're formed up, you're ready to go. What was that? What was that like?
Yeah, it's a totally different experience, and look, you still get it today. Like we talk about this and we joke about this. Like when you're in the band, there's still times where you're excited the night before to get out with the band. And when you were a youngster, that was a real thing. Like you couldn't sleep the night before because you were so excited to get out with the band. So at that point where you're formed up and you're ready to go, I think your nerves are shot because you're scared that you're not going to hit the timing right or something and you'll make a mistake. But to be fair, if you ever did make a mistake, it wasn't a massive deal. Obviously, you'd have been a bit of feedback given, but no, no major issue. And as I said, you picked it up pretty quickly. And I've always said that I think you learn a lot quicker when you're on the road. You're once you're marching and you're playing the cymbals.
Yeah, no, definitely. I love that whole first parade experience, even though it was a disaster for me. In terms of playing flute, it was an absolute disaster. So being called out of step all the time, it was.
I think that's a big one, right? I mean, when young people are join bands now, the step's the big one. They've obviously been sitting in a room practicing away on the flute or the drum or the cymbals or whatever it is they're playing. I think to bring that on parade and start getting in the step and your decorum as well as you're playing, those two have to go together.
Exactly. A lot of bands now do like marching practice and stuff. I know a number of bands around the east head up to certain places and they're out walking and stuff. So they're maybe giving younger members that opportunity to get into the swing of it before you do that. But I mean, that wasn't done in my day. Like there was none of that.
No, and I think you're right. You say in my day, certainly as the years have went on, practice has even got a lot different. You know, I think when I joined the practice, there wasn't much in the way of organisation around it. You went in, you played a repertoire of tunes, and you went
left, and that was it. Like, no, definitely. I think there is a lot. Bands have definitely progressed a lot. And as I say, way back whenever I started, it's a very different picture to what it is today and stuff. So, your first marching season, obviously 21 years ago, you started on a Derry day, and the season didn't really last much longer after that, though, does it?
No, it doesn't, and especially for the Whiterock, I suppose. We have been a band that would do week in, week out competitions, for example, and we're very sort of aligned to the main Loyal Order parades, if you will. I think we probably do 13, 14 parades a year. We at that point, obviously, if you're in the Derry December, then you're waiting till Easter again before you're out again. But I think again the excitement's there when you're getting back to it.
So obviously you didn't stay on the cymbals.
No, I think it's a good point you raise about staying on the cymbals. Actually, I think when you get into that sort of teenage years, it becomes a bit embarrassing to be on the cymbals, which is strange because I think it does a full circle. Like I'd gladly now go and play the cymbals. I think it's a good place to be and it's a bit exciting and you can get things going that way. But I think generally teenagers do go through that phase, and we still see it today in the band. You bring youngsters in playing the cymbals, and as they kind of get into the era of 14, 15, 16, they don't really want to play them anymore. So for me, that was a personal experience. I wanted to move on to something else. So the band obviously gave me the opportunity to learn the flute. And at the time it was Raymond Buchanan, the guy that brought me into the band, was teaching the young guys to learn the flute. So I took part in the learners class and picked up the flute while I was on the cymbals. So it was a nice progression actually. You were able to move from the cymbals into the flute core then.
Right. Did you find that having worked with the band, just like listening to the band, had helped you maybe a wee bit with the cymbals? Had working with the cymbals and with the band, did it help you with the flute? Obviously different instrument, different whole different bag of tricks there. But did you find that it helped you a wee bit with getting the grips with stuff?
Yeah, I think you're entirely right. You know, the tunes are in your head, so I think that's half the battle. You know, when you kind of get into playing the flute, you're saying, I know that tune. Yes, you're carrying on the notes and you're learning it, but yeah, absolutely. I think the fact that you've been in the band, you've been listening to that sound for a period of time, that it does give you that sort of head start, if you will, when you're going on to learn the flute.
Yeah, so talk me through your flute learning process. What was that like?
Well, you know yourself, it probably always starts with the BAGs.
Yeah. What about that first note though?
No, exactly. And to be fair, the blowing into it is probably a bit of a struggle to start for some people, and I probably experienced that myself. So I think, you know, once you get the hang of blowing into the flute and then sort of taking the notes, learn some of the basic tunes. You know, for us that would be the likes of the Queen's, always one that everyone learns early on. The Ducks, and then you progress into kind of the bigger tunes, the marches and stuff that we play. So it is a bit of a journey to get to the flute, and it wasn't something that happened overnight. It certainly takes a lot longer to pick up the flute than it does the cymbals. For me, it took months, I think it was, probably, before I was able to make the grade to get onto the flute and actually walk in the flute core.
Oh, okay, dead on. So number of months. I was going to ask you then, what was the transition period like? Were you banging the cymbals away before you went on to the flute, or while you were learning and stuff?
Yeah, I think that was it. You know, you were playing the cymbals away, and you know that was the good thing. It was a nice transition. You weren't sort of, you know, out of the band all of a sudden, because you'd give up on the cymbals. You were on to learn the flute, so you did take that time to learn the flute in the background, and it was nice to be able to move then from, you know, the cymbals onto the flute core then.
Yeah. So what amount of tunes were you carrying at that point?
Well, the repertoire in the Whiterock is quite lengthy. I think we play around about 80 to 90 tunes actually. Okay. Now, to kind of make the grade, you weren't expected to have the full 80 kind of under your belt, but you would had to know on a large portion of those to, you know, be able to, you know, progress onto the flute. So it was a tough enough step to get to that, but you know, once you're there, I think your progress then becomes easy enough.
Yeah, it's like once you get into like a streak. I found that I get into like a learning streak at one point. It would take ages to sometimes get that first couple of tunes off by heart, and then you just seem to hit like this hot streak of getting here. I can play this tune. You're sitting in the house and all of a sudden you're playing away at this tune. So what are we talking? 60-70% of tunes, or?
Yeah, so it's probably half at least, you know, 50 to 60% of the tunes that you would have to know, and within that there would be some marches, you know, that you would definitely have to know before you can progress on. So I think there is a selection of tunes that you would have to have had under your belt. I think, as you said, as times went on, bands have got a bit stricter, the discipline's a bit tighter, so I think now we'd expect a lot more than what we would have, say, 20 years ago.
Back in, that's the first. So you had a wee touch of dummying going on, had you?
I think there definitely was. I'm not going to hide from that, but yeah, the early days definitely, you know, there was probably a few tunes there that I hadn't, you know, cracked. So I think when you were out in the road, there was definitely a bit of dummying going on for the first few.
That's how it goes. Yeah, you have to say, there's having I went back to the Raven a couple of years ago after I'd been out for a wee while. I'd been with another band. I'd been with the band McAllister Defenders for a while, and then going back to the Raven, I was like, the repertoire was ridiculous. As I always remember it being ridiculous anyway. And so even now at my age, I'm like kind of going through the tune list and going, I'm hitting preads and going, alright, okay. I don't want to get the lyre out just yet, you know, in terms of putting it on my arm. So I've been doing that for the last 6 months and stuff. I have been hitting our tune book big time and doing what I used to do when I was a kid, going through the tune over and over and over again until I hit a part where I can't do it, and then go, right, Whereas what I used to do was just start the tune over again from the start. But now it's like when I get to a part where I know I'm making it, oh, hold on wait a second, I don't get that. That's the only part I'm kind of going over now, is that get the part that I don't know. And but it must be something about getting older and the memory starting to go a wee bit, you know.
I think when you're older, it's definitely harder to pick things up. You know, even today, we still learn new tunes. We add new tunes to our repertoire each year, and I think you're right. You know, when you're older, I don't know if it's a time thing or a mind thing, but you know, when you're learning new tunes, it's definitely a lot more difficult than the young guys are.
I'll tell you what, in these days there'll be the conspiracy theorists to be telling you it's COVID. Exactly. So you're walking in with the flute, different experience in terms of that. Any standout parades for you that you remember when you started walking with the flute at first?
Yeah, I think being in the Whiterock, one of the parades that always stand out is the Whiterock parade. I know it's not our parade, but it is a point in the calendar that we kind of mark as our anniversary. You know, that's our next year done. In terms of, you know, the age. So for me, the Whiterock parade, you know, that morning you're always coming down into the West Belfast Orange Hall, you know, and you sort of feel proud to be part of that parade. So that parade for me, there's always a good vibe about it. Plenty of people about the Shankill Road as well to watch. Good festival atmosphere really all round for the Whiterock Day, and it's not a massive parade, but the atmosphere that you get on the road for it is outstanding.
It's changed a wee bit over the years, hasn't it, too, in terms of just how it goes down now, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, obviously the parade route's changed a lot over the years, and you know, I think the demographics of West Belfast has kind of led to that. But you know, it's a great parade still to this day. But yeah, I mean, we still enjoy it and love being part of it.
Right, so is that your parade of the year then, Whiterock?
I think so. You know, I think that there's a good vibe about it, and all the boys are kind of really up for it. You know, on Whiterock Day, and we kind of mark that, as I said, as our anniversary. So yeah, it would be one of the big ones in the calendar. But I think probably something that I love the most is the Scotland trip every year. You know, and I think that's a vibe throughout the band. You know, it's not just the parade that you're doing; it's the weekend. You know, you're getting the Friday through to the Sunday with the group, everybody away, having a good time, letting your hair down. You get the parade on the Saturday, and we do a bit of an indoor on the Sunday. So, you know, for us, it's a big weekender, and I think it's really enjoyed by all, you know, young and old.
Yeah, we're in Glasgow for that, are you?
Yeah, at the minute we're parading in Glasgow. We take a lodge from Govan, actually. So we've done Glasgow for a number of years now, and we took lodges from the south side, Govan, Partick. So we've kind of moved around a bit in the last sort of 6 or so years.
You was there for the big walk this year, were you?
We were, which was delayed until September this year, which was an interesting one. But yeah, so we usually go, it's usually the week before the 12th, but this year it was moved to September. So yeah, we went over and we walked with the Govan Lodge. Slightly different parade this year, probably wasn't on the same scale. Still a big parade and a big day, but maybe not on the same scale as we're used to in Glasgow.
You just pick up a wee trophy, I think, on that day, did you?
We did indeed. We got best visiting band at that parade actually, and you know, it's always nice to get a reward. It sort of helps move things along, keep people happy in the day. But I'm not sure how many visiting bands were actually there.
I think there's only one. There's two, like the time.
Yeah, so we'll take everything it does. But yeah, previously in Scotland, you know, when I was younger in the band, we actually used to go to Lark Hall.
Right, okay.
So it was more the Central Scotland parade that we'd done then. And I have some amazing memories from that. Like, I mean, we used to go over and I had to stay with families and they'd pick you up.
That's right,
you know, and it's a lot different now, and we keep the kids in the hotel and stuff now. But back then I used to stay with families, and you know, I stayed with Billy Coffey and his wife the first time, and then I stayed with Causey, who was a guy from Lark Hall, and the lodge that we took. And some amazing memories, looked after really well, and you know, those guys made my weekend as a youngster.
Yeah, no, Scotland was always a real standout for me. I remember whenever I heard about this, I was like, what? We're going where? We're going to Scotland, right? Okay, then we're going to Millar, right?
Yeah.
You know, and I was thinking on the whole trip on the boat and everything, you know, it was just absolutely outstanding, you know.
And you say about the boat, I mean, that's it. We got picked up probably some mornings 7:30 on the Friday morning to take your trip to Scotland. And the excitement then as a youngster, you know, when you were the night before, you couldn't sleep. And you were like, I'm going to Scotland for the weekend, and we did take a flight one year, and it kind of survived. It's not the same.
Because you know you're going to be there in like what, 25-30 minutes. Whereas the boat, you know, was back. It was like a couple of hours back then, you know.
That's a boat, and then your journey there, and your journey up the Glasgow,
trying to find the bus and all that. I know. I remember when we did that. I was like, "Oh no!" The chairman was like, "Oh no, the bus is definitely around here." We're walking around everywhere trying to find a bus, and I think one of the guys had spotted it and didn't let on, and just let him walk around looking for the bus.
I know, like the buses we used to take our own buses actually with us. Back when I was young, we took too many buses, and that was just hilarious the whole time, because every time we knew the police were stopping you, every time that you'd get off the boat in Scotland, the police were there. You had to disembark your buses, you had to take everything off, and it got to the point where it was a running joke, you know, that every year we're going to get stopped, so we may as well
just do it. I know. One of my strong memories of the boat was one of the guys in our band, the Raymond, was Billy Rigby, and him and Frankie used to put a fiver on the end of a piece of thread and leave it on the floor and watch people come up for it and just pull it away as they were going to lift it up. Brilliant crack, absolutely brilliant.
And I think that's it, you know, you laugh, the laugh, even September there, like the laughter from start to finish, it's an amazing weekend all in.
And the Scottish, you know, sort of supporters love seeing the bands from over here, don't they?
No, absolutely, and you can see that, you know, as you're walking along in the parade, you can see people's delight that oh, there's the Whiterock, they're from Belfast, you know, and you can see that along the route. So it is great to get over there, and I think, you know, you're well received in Scotland, so it's amazing to go over.
Yeah, no, definitely, and I think that works both ways whenever the Scottish bands are here as well. You know, I think they'd say the same thing about the reception that they get here. They all get well looked after too. So, any standout characters from your early days in the band, people that stand out for you for a reason? Obviously maybe Mr. Buchanan for teaching you how to play and stuff, but is there anyone else?
Yeah, so through the years you've always different characters in the band, you know. Looking back, you've the likes of Billy Daly in the band, he's just a joker, you know. Everything and anything is turned into a joke. And, you know, there was one of the trips that we went to Scotland, I'll not name any names, but there was a certain guy get onto the bus one morning with a new set of teeth. And, you know, nobody wanted to talk about these teeth. Everybody was kind of keeping their mouth shut. But Billy, being the Joker, was the one that got everybody else a set of false teeth for that weekend. And when we were about to play in the hall that evening, everybody had the teeth in, and the certain member had to turn around and witness everybody getting his false teeth. So that's the kind of thing that you would see there, you know. And then obviously you get characters in the band that like to sing, you know, so when we're out on the bus or whatever, there's always a wee sing song going, you know, a wee bit of one man band, or you know, a bit of little wine drinker or something like that. So you've always somebody that's there as a character.
It's mad that bands all have their own wee song, wee set of songs, don't they? You know, and then a wee change in the lyrics for the band and everything as well.
And that's it. Well, there's always a sing song, and it's always sort of, you know, hits from years ago that go around. And even as joining the band as young member, some of the songs that I'd never heard, you quite quickly learn them and you're singing along.
You have to, don't you? You know, why you're not singing, you know.
No, exactly. Well, there's you know, the first parade, your song. You
exactly. Come on here, and look at it going, what?
Exactly.
Brilliant. So, you obviously have, you, as you were saying, you've been with the band sort of 21 years. Mm-hmm. Now, usually at this point, I'll ask people about how a band has progressed over the years, but, and I'm not saying that the Whiterock haven't progressed, but you have kept a certain style for quite a period of time. What's that been like for you? Is that how good's that been as a member of a band to see a band sticking with this particular style? Yeah,
it's amazing. Actually, I love the style of our band, and I hope that it remains for many years to come. The sound for me is, you know, I think it's sort of contagious almost, you know, when you're walking down the street, it connects very quickly with the crowd or whoever you're playing to, you know, and it's a style that absolutely is, you know, it's there forever, and I hope it does stay forever. I think your point there about, you know, we haven't changed our style. I think there was absolutely a pivot though, you know, when we hit our 50th anniversary. There was a lot of time and effort went in to kind of regenerating the band, if you will, and that means, you know, you'll probably remember this yourself, but we moved away from the HTS drums to the sort of chrome
the Royal Scots again,
exactly. So, you know, trying to find that authentic sound of the Whiterock again. So there was years there where I think if you look back, we probably weren't as crisp as we are today, and I think that point in time was the 50th anniversary where a lot of time and effort was put into, you know, the discipline, the style of the band, and we absolutely, that's what I was saying earlier about the practices changing.
Yeah.
That's when we started
Right,
to change and, you know, be a lot more concentrated on our flute core and getting everything sort of a bit tighter.
A bit tighter and stuff. But you're one of those bands that you know who it is almost before you see them.
Well, 100%. The sounds there,
Uh-huh.
you hear that for miles, as I would say, and then up come the plumes. You know,
Yeah.
you don't have far to see without the orange, the bright orange plume there, and that's something that I don't think will ever disappear. And we actually we done a bit of an April Fool's joke there last year where we put the hat on the Facebook page, a new sort of pig hat, and it didn't go down very well. I have to say, people reacted very unfavourably to the fact that we were going to move to a pig hat.
Uh-huh.
So things like that are very important, and I think when you're a young member and you join the band, you know, the likes of the hat, because you're seeing all the other bands with pig hats and whatever, it was kind of one of those things you maybe went, I want to change that. Can we not change this look? But as you spend time and you understand what it means and what it looks like to the public, it's one of those things that just want to stick with it all your life. You know,
I love it. I think the whole uniform with the hats, the plumes, the ties, everything. I just think it's a classic. It's a classic look. You know, I look back in times whenever I walked with bands that had ties. I loved it. You know what I mean? I loved the tie thing. That wasn't always a fan. It was one of those things I remember, like, hated wearing a school uniform with the tie. You see, get me with the band with the tie, loved it.
I know. And that was something, you know, again, that we kind of flipped around that time. You know, we went to the tunic right up to the neck and we weren't wearing ties, we were wearing t-shirts under that. And I think we kind of sat back and looked at it and went, look, what can we do here to kind of bring us back to where we really want to be? And that was one of the things, you know, the likes of the tie, you know, bring the tie back and make it as part of the uniform. And we're still wearing that today, and I can't see that going away anytime
I think
soon.
it's great. I love that whole that thing. I really do. So the swagger thing, right? Where's that all come from? And do you practice swagger like?
We definitely don't practice swagger. You'll notice. I think there's no kind of uniform way of swaggering from the Whiterock. I think if you watch it, it kind of starts in one place and then people they sort of fall into it. And I think it just comes naturally. Actually, when you look at it from a distance, you know, it's almost natural that it's happening. And obviously you've got the drum corps there at the front, and it usually starts there with the sticks up high and everybody getting a wee bit excited, and then it moves backwards and everybody joins
so it
in.
comes like a wave and you pick it up.
I think it does, you know. And
any drummers ever put their eye in?
Putting other people's eyes out. Yeah, I mean, you'll see, like, they get very excited, and the big drum's the same. You know, it's the heartbeat of the band, and I think, you know, you see the bass drummers getting very excited as well when we're in a hot
the rope
spot.
tension drum's one of those iconic things, isn't it? It's one of those things that's almost like I couldn't see us taking that away.
Never. No, that's going nowhere. And there was actually a period where we did have a screw tension and we walked with it a few times, and the excuse at the time was it's raining and the big drum doesn't deal too well with the rain. And it is later, you'll hear that. But it's not the authentic sound, you know, and I think you need the big drum there alongside those cymbals, and it all kind of works to that authentic sound. And that's back to what I was saying about, you know, the Royal Scot drum. I think straight away the difference that we heard when we put those in front of the band in comparison to the high tension drums, it was straight away you're going, that's the sound that we want to aim for.
I know, and do you know what? It's interesting you're saying that, because obviously the Raven have been always known for having Royal Scots, and they changed this year.
I noticed that, and I was kind of like, why'd they get rid of those? Because they're like amazing.
I think it was because they're, you know, uniform change, and they were kind of going along the lines of let's do something that people aren't expecting, and people wouldn't expect you to change the drums. I have to say, I like the white drums. I think the white drums really, you know, set the uniform off. But I know that whenever the first time that they came down, I missed walking with the first period with the new uniform. And I know that there was people like going, who's this? When I see the white drums, and I'm like, who's this coming down? And I was like going, that's a Raven. Yeah. What are they doing with white drums? What's going on here? So
I think that's it, you know, it's the symbol that you kind of relate the bands, like us, the plume, the big drum, and that's what kind of people relate to. Yeah. And obviously the Royal Scots have been there for a while now, so they're kind of part of the package. But
they're heavy though, aren't they?
Well, I've heard they're heavy. Thankfully I learnt the flute, which means I can break it in two and put it in my pocket and head on. Oh. But I've heard they're quite heavy, and obviously one of the big parts about them is the maintenance of them.
Yeah,
I think they still take a lot of maintenance. You know, snares and stuff go quite regularly. So we've actually a couple of members like Rob Hillis in the band, who's the lead tip, very experienced in dealing with those drums, and Alan Webb, who's another man that's been in the band for, you know, 40 plus years, or coming into 40th year actually, and those guys have got the experience of maintaining those drums. So I think that's where we're lucky, and we can keep them on.
Because you need that, because as you say, they are hard on the maintenance side of things. I have to say, like, I remember whenever I switched from flute to the drum with the Raven, and in practice I was like, kind of going, this is dead on, not a problem and all. I'm not the fine figure of a money on now, like, and I was a wee skinny runt back then, and I walked this first parade, was an Easter Monday parade, and I swear it was the longest walk to the master's house ever. And then they had to walk all the way back from the master's house to join the avenue. It was just from the top of the Casway Road, all the way back down to the avenue, and then do a parade, do a banger parade, come back and then take the master home as well. See, by the end of it, I literally had welts in my shoulders, and I think, I am never walking with this thing again. Like, who on earth thought that this was a good idea?
Exactly.
They're so heavy.
Absolutely, and I don't know how people do it sometimes, especially the side drums, but then the big drum, like, and as you said earlier, our big drum is danny lightweight. The guys carrying that and then beating it.
How many bass drums? You have to have a few now, like?
Well, we've actually 3 at the minute.
Right, okay.
So we have Boot, who's been there well before I was in the band. I think he's probably 40 plus years as well. With Big Scott, who actually joined from the Netherton Road.
Right, okay.
Got him on a
There's a surprise.
So and we're bringing on a new learner bass drummer actually as well. So
good.
Yeah, they're few and far between.
Brilliant. Do you have a name for the drum, have you?
But Bessie would be the bass drum, Big Bessie, and it's part and parcel of the band. It gets cared for sometimes more than some of the members. It's like, where's the drum going tonight? Or we need to make sure it gets somewhere safe. It's never somewhere something that just gets let go easily. Make sure it's going to a safe place.
And are you still wrapping a full set of Corona's aids as well, are you?
They are indeed, aye. Right. So every member has, everyone that's playing the flute in the band's playing a Corona's aid, and with a couple of spares there as well, just in case. I was
going to ask you about Heidi, if you grow any way in your flute corn stuff, have you got enough to go around?
Yeah, we do. We've actually quite a few spares there, and I think as well a lot of members through the years bought their own. They went on and they've sourced their own Crown AZ.
That's not cheap.
No, it can't be, and I've heard some of the prices ranging anywhere between sort of £600 to £1,000.
Yeah, I think one of the guys in your band, like Darren sold one recently for about $8,500 or so.
Yeah, Darren has done a bit of dealing in them. He does indeed. He's a bit of dealing in them there, and he's buying and selling quite frequently some of the flutes.
Yeah, no, it's good to have a classic flute like that as well, because it's hard to beat. I mean, obviously a lot of the new flute makers, are trying to copy, what you've got. And I remember seeing a band with, I'm not mentioning the name of the band, I remember seeing it with a whack of Carnage, and people run about with them in their back pocket and all, and I was kind of going, are you kidding me? Like, are you seriously? If you sit down and break that thing, that's just out of order.
And that's something I give credit to our band for. It's making the members appreciate the value of these instruments. That they're irreplaceable effectively. If one goes missing or it's broken, you don't just go and buy a new one in the shop tomorrow. You have to source it and try and find it. So there is a lot of care put into the instruments, the big drum, the flutes, and the side drums. And as I say, I think that's part of it, is that we want to keep, and it makes it difficult when it comes to the musical instruments for bands, Grant, because I'm not sure what we can buy, so we don't really apply for that.
Well, that's it, because you're rocking stuff that really doesn't get made anymore. Do you know what I mean? So
we'd rather have some money to help maintain some of those drums. The fact that the flutes are classified antique, I suppose, and if we had some sort of funding there to help maintain those, rather than having to go and buy a new set, we'd rather do that.
Although at some point you'd have to say there's a possibility that you may have to entertain.
Maybe. I don't see it in the next 10 years anyway. Certainly the maintenance of the flutes, we do maintain them ourselves where we can. Okay. And obviously if something is well broken or needs a good renewing, we'll try and send it away somewhere like that. So they are cared for, and it's our crown jewels, as we would call them, you know what I mean? So they are important.
Talk to us about the guy up front.
The leader, Billy Alvey. Yeah, so Billy's been with the band for quite some time now. Actually, don't think he'd be in as long as myself, but yeah, Billy's his own wee style with the stick.
He doesn't have those things,
So yeah, and he gets the crowd going there with the stick, and I think the front of our band is kind of the point that gets the crowd going. You know, the drummers there and
Yeah.
the pole, and even for us, you know, through the years, the pole has been a significant sort of part of the band, and that if you see the pole going up or it's swinging, the boys in the back of the band are getting excited.
Right,
And we're like, right, what, the pole, you know, and it does play a big role, and yeah, Billy's kind of loved by the crowd. You know, you'll see the crowd shouting and getting on, and he's a very popular man as well.
I know he is, and but there's a few of those kind of characters at the front, isn't there? You know, there's Dinger.
Dinger's
you know,
a good one,
Dinger's mental, sir.
Yeah, absolutely, and you know, I think that's it. If you've got that character to bring the energy to the band at the front, it does help in a big way.
You know, but the other thing is, I'm going to ask you about this here. Obviously, we're talking a wee bit about stay, right? And the Whiterock having the stay. There are a number of bands on the road now who are rocking a very similar style. What's your thoughts?
Yeah, it's like if you go to Whiterock and order the Whiterock. No, I'm only.
That's it. We just put we're going to be disclaimer in there for Netherton Drumchapel County. All right.
No, I'm just kidding. Actually, it's great to see. I think it's amazing that other bands have got that style, and as I said, it's a style that I want to see last forever. So it's great to see bands like Netherton and the County and Drumchapel being the newest to that, taking that style and moving it, you know, in their own direction.
Yeah.
I think each of those bands have their own sort of wee quips in there that add to that style.
Yeah.
So no, it's good to see, and we've probably a good relation actually with some of those bands, especially the Netherton Road through the years. You know, we've a lot of friends in the Netherton Road that we would, you know.
You're nicking members from them as well, eh?
Well, we got one just due to his move to Belfast, but yeah, he came along. He played the bass drum in.
I suppose that was obvious for him. I mean, if he was coming to a band here, there was no way he was going anywhere else other than you guys, like, you know,
exactly. And look, as I said, they're friends anyway, so you know he had well known in the band anyway, so it was an easy transition for him.
No, because I'm sure you caught the episode with Stevie McPherson from Drumchapel, and I had a wee think, well, what's it like being a Whiterock copycat?
Yeah, well, like, and as I said, it's great to see the style being, you know, played in other bands. It's
so what I'd say to him, I don't know, I would definitely love to see this. I would love to see Netherton, Whiterock, County and Drumchapel doing a mass band. I think that would be ridiculously good. Yeah,
it would be some noise out of that, I would assure you. Yeah, maybe that's something that can happen in the future, and even, you know, something that we have talked about is, you know, could we get all those four bands walking together, even, you know, in a parade?
Yeah,
you know,
like one after the other and stuff.
Exactly, you know, that would be great to get everyone sort of together in that respect. But yeah, I mean, it's not impossible, I suppose.
Yeah, so if the guys from those bands are watching, let's get this going. Let's get it going. Let's either get a mass band going, or let's get you all at the same parades. Because I think Drumchapel are going to be over here next year. I think they're saying they're definitely going to be here, and I think Netherton are coming back over. They're always here anyway, but for the 12th, you know, they take one of the East Belfast roads and stuff. So they do. Is it 580 there with, I think, and then the county are supposed to be coming here next year as well. I think they're coming over for. Do you know what? I think they're actually coming over for the Centenary Parade in May.
May?
Yeah.
Okay.
So here we go, folks. There's the challenge. So Stevie McPherson, if you're watching, get over for the Centenary Parade. Netherton Road, let's get you over here as well. Let's see if we can get all four of us out on the road. Wouldn't that be mad? That'd be crazy.
It would be great to see all those bands.
Brilliant. And I know one person who's sitting behind the cameras here. I'd love to see that as well.
Take a few pictures anyway.
Brilliant. So one of the things that we do a lot on the podcast is we talk a lot about the positive stories that come out of bands. Talk to me a bit about what your band maybe does to give back to the community. What kind of things he's involved in?
Yeah, like I just think it's one of those things that, you know, through the years that we have always done. You know, you try to help the community out where you can. So a few things that stand out. You know, we provided some donations to. It was actually a program that was run. I think it was in this building. Art Ability. So we provided some donations to them. And, you know, through the years, if there's local causes that ever need helping hand, we've tried to interact with those and raise money for those as well. One of the big things that we probably would do is when we're running an event, we would have the Penny Arcade played. Now we don't play that, but we would have it played, and what we'd do is a bit of a collection, and that helps the Song Museum then as well. So we try to give back where we can, and I think your community's really important to your band, and I think on several occasions, you know, we've publicly thank the community for the support that they give us. You know, without the community behind you, it's hard to run a band, you know. So I think there's many things that we've done over the years in terms of, you know, helping the community out where we can.
Brilliant. What would you say are some of the positive things that you've got from being a member of a band? Because obviously, you know, there's a lot more to this than just, you know, picking up an instrument, walking on a parade. There's more to the life in the band than that. But what would you say are the things that you've got from it?
I think friendship's a massive one.
Yeah.
You know, the friends that you make in the band and the friends that you make just by being part of that band, you know, is outstanding, and those friendships last forever. Even in our band, a lot of the sort of ex-members that you know maybe aren't part of bands or anything anymore, we try and keep them in the loop, you know what I mean? And some of the old characters that would have been there even before me, you know, we have kept in touch with those guys, and you know, making sure that they're happy and bring them along if they can, if they want to. So I think for me, friendship is a massive one, and I think it's good to have that as a kind of hobby. Certainly for the likes of your mental health, it's good. It's good to get out with the boys. You know, we talked about the weekends in Scotland, and we talked about getting out on the bus with the band and stuff like that. And I think all those are great for yourself. You know, to have that hobby of getting out and doing those things. The other thing for me is probably having my son in the band.
Right, okay.
That was a big step for me. In 2015, my son joined the Whiterock, and you know, that for me was a massive milestone. To get him in along with me, and you know, it gives me the opportunity to have time with him that's outside the family life. You know, so to me that would be another massive positive for me, that I've now got family, you know, in the band as well.
And it keeps that kind of legacy thing going, because you have a lot of that in the band, don't you?
Absolutely, there's a lot of that in terms of, you know, Raymond Buchanan, I talked about Darren, you talked about Raymond's son. So and Darren's son's now in the band, he's now on the drums. So there's generations definitely within the band, and you know, it's great to see, to get the family in there, and hopefully what that does is keep the band going for a lot more years, and you know, they stick with the style and the traditions that we have had for the years that we've been in.
What age is your son now?
My son is 17 now.
Right, okay.
So
good, getting a 17-year-old in the band, happy days.
Yeah, well, when he joined, he was a lot younger, and he kind of went exploring a bit. So he did leave for a short period of time and went on. He actually joined the Pride Ardine for a while, and then he came back there quite recently, so probably about a year or so ago he rejoined the band. So
okay, and whenever you joined it first, were you like dragging him along, or was he a willing participant?
No, he was absolutely willing, and I would never sort of drag along. I don't think it's the right thing to do. You know, as I said, even when he went exploring other bands, you know, I let him go and do that. I think it's important that, you know,
find your way.
Exactly. You know, what suits you. Now, I am thankful that he came back, obviously, but hopefully he stays.
Brilliant. No, it's one of the things that I wish I'd been able to get one of my kids involved. You see, it's a different time and place for them, you know, and I think sometimes environment has a lot to play with that, because, as you said, you grew up around the sound of the bands, the parades were there all the time, and that was me. I grew up just off Tampere Avenue, the bands were there all the time. It was a part and parcel of life. And you know, where we live now, that's not the case. You know, it's not a prevalent part of life in the community there. You know, and for me, I brought him to a couple of practices to try and get him simple. Thinking, hey, why don't you come over here and make some noise? You know, and you know, it'll be all right. And but he just didn't stick with it, you know. And now my daughter's picked the violin up, so she's maybe picked a wee bit of music up. But you want to hear that in the house? That's good crack. That is. The only thing good about that is she's learning how to read music. So I've been trying to hammer it hard. Learn how to read music, because I didn't learn until later in life, you know, and it made such a difference for me, you know. So
I think my younger son at the moment's not showing any sign of really missed the bands, you know. He's not really great with the loud noises and stuff, but he's still young, so maybe he'll.
You need to go and do some subliminal messages while he's sleeping and all that, you know.
Exactly.
Tape recorder playing while he's there.
Come along.
The band.
But up to this point, he's not showing much keen interest, but
well, you never know.
Time will tell.
So well, that's it. But the fact of the matter is, there's one there, and that's a good thing. You know what I mean? So one of the other things I wouldn't mind asking you about is I suppose about the future of the band. Obviously, you have got an idea around, you know, staying very, very close to this day. How's that worked out in regards to being the guardians of that at the minute. Obviously, you've got a leadership structure in the band who are obviously very focused in terms of let's keep that. Have you a plan in place to ensure that stays the same?
Well, I wouldn't say we have any sort of plan or strategy as such, but I think it comes back to the values within the band. You know, we have a lot of young members in the band still today, you know, waves of younger generations, and I think it's, you know, teaching them about the values and about what we're about and why we have that style and why we kind of stick with the hats and the, you know, the drums and so on. And certainly from my experience, that's something that has stuck with the younger generations. They do appreciate that. So I think we probably are safeguarded, you know, in terms of future years.
Okay.
And you know, the leadership has been there, and I think I'm sort of moving into that myself, and you know, the younger generations are trying to come along. We're trying to bring them along with us in terms of what we want to do in the future, but a lot of that takes a lot of time and, you know, effort, and we're working through a lot of stuff. Next year's our 60th anniversary.
Whoa,
for example.
Really?
So,
60? My goodness.
Yeah, so, you know, we're talking about that, and it's been difficult actually because of COVID.
Yeah.
You know, what do you plan? What do you want to do in terms of your 60th anniversary? So those discussions are still ongoing, and you know, we're trying to get a lot of people involved in that.
Right, any scoops you can give us in terms of what you've got planned?
Nothing at the minute. I really can't. I have nothing in set in stone, unfortunately, or I would share it. But total colour change in the uniform. No, I don't think you'll see anything significant. As I said, I think the 50th was a massive sort of turning point, and you know, we've kept with the rules and the sort of discipline that we've gathered from that.
Yeah.
And a lot of effort went into that. There's no doubt about it. And trying to achieve in the 60th what we did in the 50th, I'm not sure we have it there at the minute. But you know, the likes of the 50th, we done the sort of mass band, if you will, in terms of our old members, brought everybody back, and we walked on the likes of the Springfield Road, you know, go back to our roots of where we
Did you do a CD as well? Did you do like a
we did,
CD
so we done a 50th anniversary CD, and that was almost completely different to the first CD. Both those CDs are available on all the streaming services now. No advertising there, but
plug away.
But they are on all the streaming services, and we actually done a thing last year that worked out quite well. So we put it on our Facebook that, you know, Alexa, play Whiterock Flute Band,
right?
And a lot of people done it.
Do it later. There, somebody's Alexa's bound to go off.
Yeah, exactly. Alexa, play Whiterock Flute Band. So that took off quite well actually.
Brilliant.
You know, looking at the stats and stuff.
Yeah.
The
so how did you get it on there? Because I know there's a lot of bands I think would like to get their stuff out there. Because CDs, we were talking about this with, you know, when I had the podcast with Logie from Rathcool, and we're talking about CDs now. Obviously they've shifted a serious amount of CDs, as has the likes of Balron and so on. But for the most part, a lot of bands are finding we're not really shifting large amounts of these here, and streaming's probably the obvious way to go. Do you have any insight on how you got them on there? What way did it work? You use the service?
We use the service, so there's a number of services that are available to put your music online. The one that we used was Ditto.
Right, okay,
so we used that. But for me, I think it's the future. You know, CDs. You know, cars aren't even coming with CD players now, so I'm not sure where people are going to play them. And don't get me wrong, we've sold those CDs for years now, and there's still people buying the CD. But I think the future is sort of online, the streaming side of it. And whilst it doesn't automatically pull the same amount of revenue as a CD would, but there's definitely revenue I think out there to be got. And I think alongside releasing those, you have to market it, you have to kind of try and promote it in a way, and we tried that, and it worked on a couple of occasions, but there's certainly times of the year, you know, looking at your statistics of when there's more
when they're giving it plays, I know, that's it, exactly. No, and that service from Ditto's reasonably good as well, because it doesn't cost that much for the year, so I think it's £19.
Yeah, it is. It's about £19 for the year, and I think you can have multiple.
You've unlimited as an artist. You've
from the same artist, So we have two up there at the moment, and it's going quite well, I think.
Brilliant. No, I would definitely encourage bands to get on that, you know, and get your music out there, because people are using Alexas or they're using the digital platform a lot more. You know, people get, you know, that's where things are getting done now. And the first band I seen doing it was Black Ridge. I think I'd seen them on Spotify or something.
Yeah, there's been CDs on there for, you know, quite a number of years, but you know, they're old CDs obviously that have been put on. I think we would like to, you know, look at a new CD. We have a lot of tunes there that that we play that just don't feature on any of those CDs.
Yeah.
So we would like to get that out, I think.
So if you were kind of saying, here's a tune that's the Whiterock, what tune would you pick to say, this is us?
I think for me, Billy's March 100 Pipers is one that I would be one of my personal favourite tunes. But the repertoire there, you know, you've tunes like Mud Cabin, you know, those kind of jumpy, bouncy tunes are what the Whiterock's about, I think, you know, having that sort of tune that bounces you down the road. And
one that I always, it's lovely hearing, maybe I hope I've got this right, is Mary Bandit.
Yes, Mary Bandit, one of the marches that we played.
It's great. I remember you, because you used to is it the Apprentice Boys Remembrance Parade? Because I did it a couple of years with the Palmer Defenders, and I always liked being behind you, so that you couldn't blow us out. So we were leading off, and then I could hear, I think we were leaving the City Hall, and he's called Mary Bandit, and it was just after those 2 5-beat rules, and it just thundered up behind us. I was in the background, I was like, kind of going, come, walk faster, walk faster.
Yeah, it is. It's a great tune, and there's actually a few of the marches there that are brilliant. You know, just the way we play it, and the big single beat. It just, you know, as you said,
no frills is great. You know what I mean? And I think there's something to be said for that. You know, and especially from a learner's perspective, especially for like the drummers, there's a certain set number of beats that you'll use, and you don't really maybe differentiate a lot from those. It's not overly complicated drumming, and then you have a set pace. It's not like you guys are rushing down the road or anything like that. There's a set pace, which means it is not necessary, even if there are tricky passages on the flute, you're playing it at a pace that you should potentially going to be able to get it, and I think that's overlooked. You know, people see this as being, oh, it's just simple, straightforward, but to keep that consistent at that level, to do simple well is very hard.
And I think that's what it is, you know, and as you say, the simplicity of the tunes, you know, you're hitting every note, you know, there's not too many fiddly bits, every note's being hit, and that then travels in your sound, you know, everything's sort of travelling, and as you said, the thundering that comes around with that, you know, the crown flutes just sort of carry for miles, as I would say.
And the other thing that I love about that, and this is probably one of those things why I do like that style, is, and this is just personal preference for me, in regards to doing what I would call classic blood and thunder stuff, you're not playing up on that high register all the time.
No.
You aren't squeaking the life out of the flutes, and that's why you're loud, because you don't have the high tension drums. You've got, they're double snares anyway, aren't they, the Royal Scots, but they're not tuned ridiculous, and that bass drum's you've got a balance of sound, and I think that is so important.
I totally agree with you, and that's what I was saying earlier, you know, that authentic sound that comes together. It's like, you know, the cymbals even, you know, without a band without cymbals, to me is like a dog with no ears, you know, and it's something's missing when you're not hearing that sort of collective sound come together, and I think that's what our band do well, you know, the flutes, the cymbals, the drums, it all just blends together, and it's a great sound to hear.
No, definitely, because regardless of whether you guys are walking with your biggest band or reduced numbers, you get that volume just seems to come all the time, and that's just down to the fact that we're playing at a particular register on the flutes, the drum, the bass drum. You've got bass, middle, treble, the way music's supposed to be put across. You're covering the spectrum, and that's hard to beat.
No, definitely, and you know, as I said, I hope it lasts for years to come, and you know, I know a lot of bands have changed their styles over the years to a lot more modern sort of drumming and fluting and whatever, and it's brilliant to hear all that as well, but you know, for me, that's the sound that I want to live on, is the people to hear that.
No, and don't get me wrong, like, I mean, there's obviously bands that have changed their style and are doing it extremely well, you know what I mean, they're doing some amazing stuff out there, you know, lots of bands that I would talk about all the time, but there's just something about that sound, for me, that just has, it's just hard to get it out of your head, and hard to either walk in front of, especially when you guys are behind and so on. So in terms of maybe finishing off then, if you were to try and sum up the band scene to help someone kind of understand what it's all about, what would you tell them?
I think for people, it's kind of, you know, any prerequisite that you have about the band scene, whether it's a negative or positive one, I would say go into it with your eyes open and try and see what is in it for you. You know, everybody has their different vibe and their different sort of sound, but there's something there for everybody, and for me, I bring it back again to the kind of friendship side of it. You know, it's something where you can get out meet people, you know, have a great time. You do your parade, you have a bit of a you know, refreshments and stuff after the parade, have a great day. And to me, that's what it's all about. It's just that great time, the friendship. It's brilliant. You know, if you're not involved, get involved. Like, you know, and I know it's had its history, and there's a lot of negative news around bands. It always seems to pop up quicker than positive news. But, you know, try and set all that aside and go out and explore it and see what's in it for you.
Find out for yourself what it's really all about. So you have an open platform here. If you want to plug getting some members here, work away, you know, tell people where they can come along to practice and get involved with the Whiterock.
Yeah, absolutely. So we practice in the Highfield Rangers on a Tuesday night. Now we're shut down now until February. We take a bit of a winter break, but yeah, in February we have a learners class that starts at 7 p.m. on a Tuesday night, and then the full band practice happens at 7:30. So yeah, we're always there, we're open, and it's great crack. You know, come along if you wish.
Brilliant. So I just want to say thanks very much for coming along and
problem,
taking the time to share your story with us. Absolutely brilliant to have the band featured and just to hear another positive story from the band team. So appreciate it, man. Thank you.
Appreciate you inviting me. Thanks very much.
No worries, man. Good to have you on.
Cheers.
Brilliant.
You have been listening to the Made to Parade podcast, sponsored by the British Drum Company, where Phantom, Regimental Series and Axial Parade drums are hand-built in the UK to look amazing, sound amazing and feel amazing.